The storm tore through the city like a wild beast, swallowing streetlights in inky darkness and rattling windows with furious thunder. Bolts of lightning slashed the sky, revealing empty roads slick with rain, save for the quivering glow of distant lamps. Amid this chaos, a lone figure charged forward. Max, a German Shepherd canine, his soaked coat clinging to taut muscles and his breath ragged but resolute. He wasn't fleeing fear. He was running toward a memory. The train station, where his former handler, Officer James, once emerged from steel doors calling his name. Tonight, though, Max wasn't waiting for James. He was chasing something new, something frantic and human. A slender, fragile wail cut through the wind's howl, a sound no animal makes. Max froze, ears picked, instincts flaring. The cry trembled through the storm's roar, too weak to be a stray pup, too urgent to ignore. Without a second thought, he bolted toward an abandoned construction site near the tracks, leaping over rubble, splashing through puddles, driven by the faintest trace of that desperate sound. Every nerve pulsed with purpose as he navigated the maze of steel and concrete, heart hammering. What he found halted him. Beneath a towering pillar, half hidden by scattered boards and wet tarps, lay a newborn baby, draped in a sodden blanket, lips tinged blue, tiny chest barely rising. Rain poured in sheets, soaking the blanket that clung to the infant's frail frame. Max approached slowly, cautious concern in his dark eyes. He was trained to protect country, suspects, danger, but not this. Yet every instinct screamed that this life depended on him. He sniffed, releasing cautious puffs of warm breath into the cold night, then looked skyward, searching for a glimmer of hope. He remembered Eleanor, the kind woman who left food and water at the station without ever demanding his trust. Could she be the answer now? Clamping his teeth gently on the blanket's edge, he lifted the baby with delicate precision, mindful of every shiver hurled by the relentless rain. Max raced through deserted streets, the baby's slight weight tugging at him. His powerful legs carried them toward Eleanor's small house beside the station tracks, the only place that had ever felt safe. Inside, Eleanor sat in her threadbare armchair, gazing at faded photographs of her son Peter. His smiling face in uniform stared back, a ghost of mornings when he boarded the train and evenings when he returned. The storm made the room feel cavernous and silent, broken only by the clock's slow tick. Loneliness pressed on her chest like the storm outside. Then came a scratch, soft but insistent. Curious, she rose with determined steps, leaning on her cane, joints stiff as winter branches. She opened the door, expecting Max's familiar silhouette. Instead, she saw him drenched, eyes solemn, and at his paws a bundled, drenched blanket. Inside its folds, a newborn trembled. Eleanor's heart seized. Ignoring the ache in her knees, she dropped to her knees, her trembling hands gathering the child. Cold seeped through her fingertips as she lifted the baby into her arms. Tiny breaths, shallow and quick. "Oh, dear God," she whispered, wrapping the child in a dry towel. Max sat close, unwavering, as she moved a chair to the hearth, drawing it nearer to share warmth. He watched the infant's fragile chest rise, eyes reflecting relief and trust, proof that he had chosen well. Eleanor's nursing instincts surged. She laid the baby on the table and checked vital signs. Faint heartbeat, shallow breaths, skin as cold as ice. Without hesitation, she removed the wet blanket, replaced it with thick towels, and gently rubbed the baby's hands and feet to coax warmth back to tiny extremities. "Come on, sweetheart, stay with me," she murmured, pressing the child to her own chest. Max rested his head on her knee, a silent offer of comfort. Minutes passed like hours until a deeper breath, a soft whimper. It was enough. Lips lost their faint blue, colour blooming. Heart racing, Eleanor dialed emergency services, an ambulance, neonatal unit, every plea underscored by the baby's tenuous awakening. Sirens wailed through the storm's retreat as the ambulance bore the child away. Eleanor waited outside the hospital's neonatal unit, shivering despite layers and anticipation. Through glass, she spotted the incubator's soft glow. The baby's cheeks were pinker, breaths steadier. Relief should have washed over her, but emptiness welled instead. Who was this little one? Then a nurse appeared. "Are you the one who found her?" she asked. Eleanor shook her head, confusion creasing her brow. Behind her, a familiar figure. Max, rain still dripping from his fur, stood waiting at the doorway, as though on guard. Every evening since, after the sun dipped below the horizon, Max has returned to the hospital doors. The staff, charmed by his loyalty, often step outside to pat his head, greeting him as the four-legged guardian of the newborn wonder. Meanwhile, Eleanor's heart wrestled with something unexpected. She had saved this life. Might she keep it? But before she could answer, there was a knock at her door. Claire stood on her porch at dawn, eyes red from sleepless nights, voice trembling as she whispered her name and confession. "I think you have my daughter." The single mother's story tumbled out. An unplanned pregnancy, postpartum despair, no support, so she left the baby, believing it an act of mercy. Seeing Max's courage on the news shattered her resolve. If he could save her, maybe I can too. Claire's plea was raw, Eleanor's fear real, but she offered a gentle nod. "Let's go to the hospital together." Max's tail thumped softly, as if giving his consent. In the hospital's sterile hallways, Claire's steps faltered outside the neonatal unit. Through glass, she beheld her daughter's pink, peaceful face. A nurse ushered them in. Claire's hands shook as she held the child for the first time. Eleanor close by. "You're her mother," Eleanor said softly. Claire's tears were relief and love, but also fear. "I don't know how." Eleanor smiled, steady as a lighthouse. "You'll learn." And learn Claire did. Diapers were fumbling rituals. Sleepless nights became tender lessons, each step bolstered by Max's watchful presence, his head resting on Claire's lap when she felt unsure. A few weeks later, the custody hearing unfolded in a small courtroom. Claire, more confident now, sat across from Eleanor, Max waiting outside. The social worker praised Claire's progress. The judge looked to Eleanor. "Do you believe she's ready?" With quiet conviction, Eleanor replied, "Yes, she's ready." The ruling granted Claire custody. Joy burst from Claire in sobs of gratitude. Eleanor's smile shone, though her heart ached with impending silence. Morning light found Eleanor on her porch, Max at her side. Claire's car rounded the bend with her daughter in tow. The house felt hollow without baby coos, yet Max pressed close, sharing her sorrow. Each evening he still visits the train station, watching platforms and doorways, ears alert for a long-lost voice. Eleanor understands that longing better than anyone. Then came the invitation, a hesitant call from Claire. "Will you come this Sunday? I want you to meet her." Sunday dawned bright. Claire stood at the door, cradling her daughter, a tiny girl clutching Max's soft fur. Eleanor's heart bloomed as she stepped forward, arms outstretched. Claire whispered her name. "Emma." The baby's tiny hand gripped Eleanor's finger in a perfect seal. Max barked once, joy echoing through the garden. As a train whistle echoed in the distance, Max's ears twitched. He looked to Eleanor, then to Emma, then back to the tracks. "Home," he seemed to say, "is not a platform or a person. It's the circle of love that holds you." And in that moment, surrounded by laughter, warmth, and new beginnings, Max, Eleanor, and little Emma knew they were finally home. In the days that followed, a gentle routine wove itself into their lives. Each morning, Eleanor would rise before dawn, lighting the hearth's embers and laying out soft blankets for Emma's first feed. Claire, now moving with quiet confidence, would join her, humming a lullaby as she cradled her daughter. Max, ever vigilant, padded silently behind them, his ears flicking at every whisper of wind or distant train whistle. Together, they formed an unlikely family bound by compassion and second chances. Weekends brought visits to the small park near the station, where sunlight filtered through budding trees and laughter mingled with birdsong. Emma's tiny fingers stretched toward dappled beams of light. Claire would guide her, eyes brimming with pride. Eleanor paused often, tracing patterns in the wood of the weathered bench, where she once waited for Peter. Now grateful that life had offered her this new beginning, Max lay at their feet, his head resting on Claire's shoe, tail thumping whenever Emma cooed. In those moments, the past, loss, storms, empty rooms, faded beneath a brighter promise. Each evening, as dusk draped the town in lavender and gold, they returned to the little house by the tracks, where the echoes of trains became a comforting refrain. Home, they all understood now, was not defined by arrival or goodbye, but by the gentle warmth of hearts that choose to stay.